Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Moser. I'm a software engineer over here at Idamus, and today I'm going to be walking you through the system diagram and component hierarchy, how they function, and the ways that you can modify this section of your Tara project in case you get further down the line with your project and you realize that you've made some mistakes here. This will allow you to be able to go back, rearrange the hierarchy without having to go and delete the components that you've made and then leave some dangling references within your project, which of course is going to lead to another problem for you to solve. And in general, we could just avoid any sort of hard refactor of your project. So let's go ahead and bring up the tool itself. Here we can see that we have our system diagram for our project. It is currently fully empty, but it's important to note that whenever you start a Tara project within Secure, you're always going to have a base component or root component in system automatically created for you. This is something that we typically recommend you just have within every single project. You could remove it, but then you would have to go and within your system diagram change what your root component is. It will always be defaulted to system, and it's not going to cause any issues with your project, but it's more so just a good standard to have for this. So within our system diagram, let's go ahead and start editing our component section for our item definition in the visual format. We'll just go ahead and drop some new components in here. We can see that new component 1 and new component 2 are currently placed at the same level. And the way that we can verify this is we can see that we can move them through each other, but we can't actually go ahead and nest these. So even if new component 2 is larger, and we have the space for new component 1 to fit in, we can see that it currently hides behind it, and even when it's within this particular view here, going over to the component section, we can see that the hierarchy for this is that these two are sibling components rather than component 2 or component 1 being the proper child for it. Additionally, one way to verify that is by using the auto layout. This will show you the most accurate representation of what is currently in your model, and it will prevent any sort of human-made layout errors that would prevent or mislead someone into thinking that, say, new component 2 here is a child of new component 1. Doing this, just make sure that you remove any of those potential human errors. One thing that we could also do within here is we could define children for these particular components. So we'll go ahead and add a new component 3 and a new component 4. You can see here when I did that, the green outline for the component shows up, and you can see specifically which one we're targeting. So if I selected here, it would make another component child for new component 2, whereas if I did so in here, it would make that a child for new component 4. One thing that's also important to note is that within the visual editor, we can't actually go and change the hierarchy of these components. Say that we were working on our Tara project and we realized we made a mistake. New component 4 should not actually be a child. It should be a sibling component for new component 1 and new component 2. We can't simply drag it out of this box. In fact, you'll see that it gets stuck, and no matter how hard I try, I can't actually remove it from this particular component because it's being designated as a child. However, this can be changed within the system chunk for components, and we can see the hierarchy is as shown within our diagram. And there are a couple ways that we could go and we could move this particular component out of here. The first way is that we could go ahead and cut and paste this. So if we wanted to use Control X, cut it from here, and then that actually pasted it as a child of the other component. We could do so here. Going back over to our system diagram, let's reset. We can see that new component 4 is now no longer a child to new component 2. Or another thing that we could do if we're not looking to do any cuts is we can once again go ahead and select everything within here, and that should be, there we go. And then by holding Control and Shift, we can actually move this particular component out of the hierarchy. So by using the arrow keys here, we can change its layout within our project. And in fact, we can even go ahead and nest it as a child component for new component 3 here. So going back over to our system diagram, let's reset the layout. Within our diagram options, let's set it so that we could just see everything within our diagram without having to dig deeper. And we could see that we have two components nested within new component 1. and one of those is a sub component based off of new component 3. Within this hierarchy level, this is a good way to be able to better compartmentalize the visual for this diagram. We can see here that I made it to just show a single hierarchy level. So we can see that with new component 1, there is a subcomponent listed here. By double clicking the box, we can see that, okay, we are now shown just new component 3. And then we could dig one more level deeper, and we could see new component 4. In order to get back to our view, we could either go and change the root component here, or we could use the go up function right here, and we could go up until we are at the level that we want. And depending on how many hierarchy levels we establish, that'll change in terms of what we're seeing from a visual perspective in this section. Typically, if you want to just see everything within your project at any given point, it's best to just set that hierarchy level to infinite. But if you wanted to hide or layer the way that this is being represented in a visual perspective, you could go ahead and change those levels yourself. So that about covers everything for this particular demonstration. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and we'll have future videos coming out on ways that you can speed up your work process and potentially even use the control scenarios, which is an incredibly powerful feature of the tool itself. That about does it for me. Thank you, and have a nice day.